And we're back with another weekly Monday report. Guys, we got a lot of hockey to cover, a lot of road games. We're on a little West Coast road trip at the beginning of the season, which is great because as we talked about this past week, we're not doing that great at home. We're doing better on the road. So hopefully some wins will come from this. First team that we face this upcoming week is going to be the Colorado Avalanche. Similar to when I talked about the Dallas Stars last Monday, they're in the Central Division, so we do play them quite a bit. And unfortunate for us, they are quite good. They had a little bit of a slump at the beginning of the season. Alexander Georgiev was in net, and they've kind of flipped. They've gone with their backup goaltender, kind of is now their new starting goaltender, and that is going to be Anaheim, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. But they got a lot of key pieces and a lot of pretty good guys. Their captain, Gabriel Landeskog, has been out for the past couple of seasons. I highly recommend watching the show Face Off that's on Amazon Prime. There's a whole episode that he's a part of, and it kind of gives you another side to his injury. You get to hear his side of things. Very interesting. There's rumors that he's coming back more towards the middle of the season. I hope so, because I like watching him. I think he's a good guy, but who knows? Some other key pieces for the Colorado Avalanche. On the forwards, we've got Nathan McKinnon, Casey Mittelstadt, you've got Rantanen, you've got Kiviranta. Defensemen, you have Cale Makar, Devon Taves, and Girard. And then goaltending, like I said before, it's a little wonky at the beginning of this year for the Colorado Avalanche. Typically, it's been Alexander Georgiev, but right now it is Anaheim in net, and it's kind of his net to lose sort of situation. They've struggled the first couple of games or so, but it's more been a goaltending situation. Had a little bit of a slow start, but now that they've flipped the goaltending, will have a couple of games under their belt. They're pretty dialed in. Like we said on the episode this past week, it's still pretty early in the season where a lot of bad teams are winning and a lot of good teams are losing. Colorado Avalanche is a prime example. They're going to be dialed in pretty quickly and get back to their competitive nature. Next team that we play is the San Jose Sharks. Really don't have a ton of new information with San Jose, seeing as we just played them 2 weeks ago. Biggest news, I will say, is Celebrini is out a little bit longer than expected. They've projected about maybe 1 to 2 more weeks that he's out. Hope he comes back soon and healthy for San Jose, but not before we play them. They've had a bit of a rocky start, but it's to be expected with San Jose. We talk about that Chicago and San Jose are pretty much on the same level in terms of they very much have the same sort of structure with the rebuild. They sent everybody away, kind of burnt everything to the ground, and they're starting anew. So it's going to take time. It's going to take time with us. It's going to take time with San Jose. So they've had a rocky start to the beginning of the season. Once again, we've got Vanacek and Blackwood for the goaltending tandem. They don't have a back-to-back, so who's to say who they go with? Maybe they give Vanacek a redemption because he was in net when we played them last time, or maybe they decide to just switch it up and go with Mackenzie Blackwood. Who knows? Like I said, not a ton of new information just because we played them so recently. Next team that we play is the Los Angeles Kings. Have a couple of notable players that are on the injured reserve for Los Angeles. You've got Drew Doughty and Kaliev. Some other key pieces that are not on injured reserve. For the Los Angeles Kings, for forwards, you've got Anze Kopitar, Byfield, Deneau, Adrian Kempe, and a guy who I really, really hope has a great season because he's definitely had some trials and tribulations in the beginning of his career, and that's Alex Turcotte. I really hope he has a good season, guys. Defensemen, you got Drew Doughty once he comes back. You've got Clark, you've got Anderson. For goaltending, you've got Darcy Kemper and Rittich. Los Angeles is in a weird position where they're pretty good, but they're not great. They'll be good for most of the regular season. They're pretty consistent with their type of game and their talent level, but they have the unfortunate circumstance of running into the Edmonton Oilers every postseason, and that really seems to be their downfall. They are pretty good, but they just aren't great enough to compete with the very, very great teams in the Western Conference, and that is really their biggest thing. They have a lot of key pieces, but they lack depth within their roster. They just need a bit more. Definitely a mixed bag that they've started off with. Like I said, this is still pretty gosh darn early in the season. We really can't truly judge until about 20 games in. But it's been a mixed bag for the beginning for the Los Angeles Kings. Like I said, they have skill. Their main thing is they just lack depth within their roster. And finally, last but certainly not least, is our Anaheim Ducks, just down the street, across from Disneyland. They are also in a similar boat to us where they're going through a rebuild. I would peg it as like maybe 2 years ahead of Chicago and San Jose in terms of their rebuild. They've also been rebuilding for a lot longer. This is definitely the first year where you're seeing a lot of their younger guys start to make the jump to the NHL. You know, they're getting out of the San Diego Gulls roster and making it to Anaheim, or they're jumping from juniors to Anaheim. You're starting to see a lot more of these key pieces that we saw drafted a couple of years ago finally make it onto their NHL roster. They have a new captain in Radko Gudas, some other key pieces. You've got forwards. You've got a couple of guys who have been there for a little bit, Terry, Killorn, Zegras. You've got some newer guys. You've got Mason McTavish, Leo Carlson, and my favorite, Cutter Gauthier. Defenseman, you've got Fowler, and then also, like I said, a couple of new guys. You got Mitnikov, Tristan Linnell, and Zellweger. Goaltending has been a little shaky the beginning of this season, but that's because your starter, which is Gibson, has been on injured reserve. They're expecting him to come back this week. They were expecting him to make the road trip when they play the New York Rangers. And I imagine he should be in the lineup by the time Chicago plays in. Otherwise, you've had James Reimer and Lucas Dostal. Sorry, I'll get that pronunciation. But that's definitely been the shakiest bit, at least at the start of the season. Again, mixed bag. Not the best, but they're still in the rebuild. Like I said, they're just a little bit ahead of Chicago and San Jose in terms of the rebuild sense. You've got a lot of younger guys coming, so this is just a bit of a growing period for these younger guys, but they're still pretty gosh darn entertaining to watch. Biggest also thing with the Anaheim Ducks is they typically tend to have drama consist around John Gibson and Trevor Zegras every trade deadline. I feel like every trade deadline or right around the draft every year, are these two players going to stay? You know, they're not happy. It's either they want to leave or the team wants them out. We have no idea. My best prediction is I don't think either of them stay long term. Don't know necessarily where they go, but it seems every year or so we get Trevor Zegras is on the way out. We heard a little bit more of that once Drysdale was traded to the Philadelphia Flyers. Nothing right now, but, you know, it's early. There's still a lot of hockey left in the season, so who knows? And that is all for this weekly Monday preview. Like I said, we've got Colorado, we've got San Jose, we've got the Los Angeles Kings, and last but not least, we have the Anaheim Ducks all away. So we got a bit of a road trip. Should be a fun week.